Today I'm going to talk about one of the most interesting men I've ever met. And he was an actual cowboy, a real cowboy. Ran a ranch. He was the foreman of a ranch in Fraser, Colorado. By the way, I'm outside of Colorado Springs, right near Pikes Peak, hiking, so I apologize for the heavy breathing. It's both out of shape and also high altitude. Anyway, so I met this cowboy. He's actually my brother-in-law's stepfather, so it's kind of a distant relative, and his name is John. John, for years, like years and years, ran a large ranch out in Fraser, Colorado. So he was Rip from Yellowstone, for those of you who watch Yellowstone, before there was a Yellowstone, from way back. Literally the whole 9 yards. They had cows, horses, beautiful area right outside Winter Park. So, first time I met John, I was going up in August, and he made a comment, "Hey, we got a little condo you can stay in, and if you come up on a Friday night, we have a little rodeo and a little chuck wagon steak dinner." I was like, "Oh, that sounds fun, a little rodeo, you know." So I get there Friday afternoon, go to meet up at the rodeo arena, and it's like this big arena. It's called the John Work Arena, which is his name. It was named after him. He had come up with an idea for a rodeo and built this arena. You know, they had all the things you see on Yellowstone. They had the horses, the cows, they had all the animals. They had cowboys working on the farm, on the ranch. So he decided, had an idea, hey, let's start a rodeo. And that was years earlier, and it had become, you know, pretty big for a rodeo, a small rodeo. I think it won an award for best small rodeo. I have no idea how they categorize these things, but all I can tell you is there were bull riders from all over the world at this thing, and I think they did say it was like the last event for the season. So a lot of them are coming in to try to get some points before the season closed out or before the national rodeo, whatever, worldwide, whatever they call it. But anyway, my point is, John had an idea and he started this rodeo, and it became a big event, a big thing. So I've got 3 other stories where John, this cowboy, he saw opportunity, had an idea, and he turned it into something that became a business, or came into something that satisfied people. So when I first get there, we go to the rodeo. The next day, he picks us up in a Jeep and riding around the ranch. He's showing us the ranch. I mean, it's like this. It's real wooded, and but had pasture too. Hit mountains all around it. Like I said, Winter Park was just on the other side of the mountain from it. It's a big ski resort, if anybody knows. So we get to John's house. It's a real rustic house, as you could imagine, and in it has this picture along with, what is that? Who's that? It's a little, kind of black and white picture. He was asking me with President Eisenhower. Like, President Eisenhower? Yeah, he used to love to come here. Hang on, let me see where I'm going here. Pikes Peak Summit, Devil's Playground, or Craig's Trail. Anything with Devil and Pikes Peak doesn't sound good. Let's go to the Craig's one. All right. Here, where was I? So yeah, he said, "Oh yeah, I'll show you the what was called the Western White House." He drives us little ways, and there's this little kind of cottage there. And he goes, "Yeah, during Dwight Eisenhower's presidency, this is called the Western White House." He would come out here, and he usually had a couple of Secret Service guys with him, and they had like cabinet meetings there. Dignitaries would come. But Eisenhower was a big hunter, big outdoorsman. He loved hunting, he loved fishing. And he knew the owners of the ranch, I think, so he had been out there before he was president. So as president, he used to like fish fish there's a river on the ranch. Well, the Secret Service didn't like him fishing in a river. They said they can't protect you, so they, wouldn't let him do it. So again, John had an idea. He's like, well, President Eisenhower loves to fish. They won't let him fish in the river. So he had his guys dig out several ponds. They were fed. Well, then what do? You got bodies of water. You don't have any fish. Well, when you're serving the President of the United States, you just call the U.S. Fish and Game guys and you tell them, hey, I need some fish. What kind do you need and how big? So they would literally bring out rainbow trout, stock the ponds. Hey, while you're at it, can you bring us some game birds? So they bring quail or whatever, stock the fields. And when Eisenhower would show up, he'd have some very successful hunting and fishing, and that was because of John's idea of, I faced an obstacle, can't fish in the river. Well, let's make some ponds. You can still enjoy the scenery, still enjoy the river there, but he can get some good fishing in the ponds. So, the thing I really learned listening to John is, he had ideas, he would see opportunities, and he figured out how to overcome the obstacles. I think that's the key thing I've noticed in my 25 years running a business, and even prior to that, working for other people. I think there's two primary types of people. Those that see opportunity and those that see obstacles. And there's nothing wrong with either one. In fact, you need both of those. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen the comedian Nate Bargatze, he has a joke he tells where between him and his wife, he's the dreamer and she's the one that hates fun, puts a kibosh on all the fun. And he goes, you can't have two dreamers because you'll be out of money in a day. And that's how it is in business. If you're an opportunist and a dreamer and you chase everything and you don't see the obstacles and be wary of that, you'll be out of money in a day. And cash flow is one of the top reasons, if not the top, why small businesses fail. Take a look at this. I don't know if you can see this or not. It is gorgeous. I think we're like 8,000 or 9,000 feet up. I don't know. I'm having trouble breathing. I found, as far as opportunists versus obstaclers, I don't know if that's the right term, but people see opportunity versus those that see obstacles. And number one, if you're in sales, you got to see the opportunities. If you just see the obstacles, you're going to be unsuccessful, in my opinion. And if you are somebody who you just see obstacles, then when you're trying to sell, you need to make sure that you're not bringing those up. It's fine to ask questions, and if those come back from your prospect, then overcome the objection. But what I found is people that see obstacles sometimes working for me, they bring those up to the customer on the sales call. It makes the sale a lot harder. If you're a single business owner and you're sitting there thinking, oh well, what do? I don't have, it's just me. Then you need to know what your you're half glass full, half glass empty. That's not an exact metaphor for that, but it is kind of what it is. So if you are opportunistic, then you need to know that and make sure you put things in place to guard yourself. Maybe you have budgets, have goals, something to keep you disciplined, because otherwise you're liable to spend all your money or chase things that are unrealistic. I'm the opportunist type. I think it is very difficult if you see obstacles to figure out how to overcome that and see the opportunities. Back to John. He started the rodeo. He saved Dwight Eisenhower's vacation destination in the Western White House. At the time, this was back in the 50s, 60s, 1950s, 1960s. Winter Park was relatively new. I think it started in the 40s. And people would come out to Winter Park to go skiing. But John recognized everybody likes to ski. And he knew from being out there in Winter Park, in Fraser, where when the lakes would freeze and all that, people would ice skate. So he had an idea of building an ice skating rink. He researched it and decided, the closer to Winter Park he was, the better. So I'm on a slippery rock here. Bought a little plot of land right at the base of Winter Park, built an ice skating rink, and started a business. And it was a successful business. But one thing he learned, everybody doesn't like to ice skate. He was out in the middle of winter wonderland. Not everybody skis, not everybody ice skates. There is one thing that almost everybody loves to do, and that's inner tubing or sledding. So John had an idea, and to his knowledge, and this is like 1970, 1971, there was no commercial inner tube business anywhere that he knew of. I think he said that he had heard of some maybe over in the Alps, over in Europe, but none in the US. So John had an idea. That was a good idea, great idea. He knew he had a market for it, but that's all he had at this point. He didn't have land. He didn't know how he was going to do it, what kind of equipment he needed, any of that. But he started with the land. And he was on I think it was over 1,000-acre ranch, and it was hilly, like I said. So there was one hill that was kind of not that usable. It was kind of near the road, main road coming into Fraser. And, again, it was a hill, so it wasn't great for pasture. So he asked the owner if he could buy the land. And so they said, sure. I can't remember if they actually gave it to him or sold it to him, but he was able to acquire the land, this hill. So now he had a place. Now I had to start researching, okay, what kind of tubing hill or tubing business do I want to have? And you can imagine John being a real cowboy. He was a bit of a thrill seeker. So he wanted this to be to a hill that got your heart racing. That was his goal. So, it wasn't safe enough, but where it was exciting. So they had to figure out, okay, how high do we want to be? Where's the landing area going to be? How steep is the slope going to be? How steep can you make it before the inner tube flips over? And so they started looking at different inner tubes and trying to decide, what's the way to protect the inner tube. He and his wife would get different material. They'd sew it around the inner tubes. They tried putting a wooden seat on there to see how that worked. He said that didn't work well at all. It was very unstable and would flip over. So thankfully they decided against those. So they finally arrived at what they thought was the best solution. They found the type of fabric. It was, I think kind of the kind that's used today. And a lot of these, I have no idea what kind of material they're made out of. Oh, it is so pretty out here. So they had the inner tube, they had the fabric, and they started, testing the hill. And they got the hill, the steepness of the hill, but they couldn't steer it. And the inner tubes, if you were near the edge, they would just go flying off into the woods. So he started grooming the hill in such a way that would kind of funnel you back into the middle, so that you weren't losing people off into the yonders, hitting trees and stuff. So now he had perfected. He had the tubes, he had the perfect tube, he had the protection on the tubes, he had the hill, he had the excitement. Everything was great. There was one last thing, and those of you who've done tubing, what's the worst part about sledding or tubing? That's right, it's climbing back up the hill. So he had seen these pulley systems, for skiers, where you'd hang on to it and it would pull you, up the slope, and you stay on your skis and it pulls you up. So he thought, I wonder if I could make that. John thought, I wonder if I could retrofit that for inner tubes. So he found one that was not being used any longer. Sorry. He found one that wasn't being used any longer. He bought it and installed this pulley system and made these little hooks and put ropes on the inner tubes. And basically, you just sit in your inner tube, hook it to the pulley, and you ride up the slope. So I actually, when I was out there, I went out there another time and I went to the tubing hill. And I'm just a numbers person. I'm running through the numbers. It's like $30, $40 an hour, something like that, depending on if it's a holiday or whatever. And they run from 10 in the morning till 10 in the evening, from November through March. So it's about 4.5, 5 months, depending on how much snow they're getting. I start running through these numbers in my head, and I'm arriving at about $600,000 per month. $600,000 a month is what I came up to. That's about $3 million a year for only 5 months worth of work. Let's say I'm off. Let's say it's $2 million. Regardless, this cowboy had come up with a business idea, and it's a multi-million-dollar idea. And actually, when I was out there, I was with my brother-in-law. This is his stepdad that did all this, and it was a family that was running the tubing hill. They had bought it from John, and my brother-in-law had gone to school with these guys, and I'm running these numbers. I'm like, these guys are making a lot of money. And he goes, I know, John offered to give this business to me, but I worked here all when I was in high school, and I was just like, I'm done with this. So he didn't take it. And he could be a multimillionaire now. But anyway, again, the point of the story is you need an idea, but don't let the obstacles around your idea squash the opportunity. So at each obstacle that John faced, whether it was can't fish in the river. Oh, really? Well, let's build some ponds. Well, there's no fish in the ponds. Oh, really? Well, let's call the U.S. Fish and Game Commission. Hey, I got a bunch of cowboys here. I got a bunch of livestock. What if we do a rodeo? Wow, how are we going to do a rodeo? Nobody's going to come out here. That's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of money. Well, he did it. Somebody's probably thought of an ice skating rink before. Why is there no ice skating rink at Winter Park? Well, he built it. And actually, there's an ice skating rink at Winter Park today. And actually, Winter Park has a tubing hill now at Winter Park. So they copied the Fraser tubing hill. It's nowhere near as good and nowhere near as fun as what I hear. I can tell you from first-hand experience, the historic tubing hill of Fraser, again, I'm not the biggest thrill seeker in the world, but I was wondering, how is this not going to tip over? It feels like you're on a black diamond when you first go down. So if you'll learn from John the Cowboy, see opportunities, overcome the obstacles, solve the problems, you can also finish well. I'm going to try to finish this hike. If I have a heart attack, I'm on Craig's Trail. I don't show up in the next week or so. I'm on a cell phone signal. So I'm on Craig's Trail about 1.5 miles in. Thank you guys.
All right, Ella? Ella? Dad, look out.
Hey, you need to
You got it, you guys.
Oh, Lord, y'all are Hey, Ella, was that fun?
Yeah.
Walk over to that one or this one?
Yeah, let's walk over to that one.